The airport is often described as a place of beginnings and endings, a gateway where journeys start and others come to a close. But on one unforgettable night, it became a place where time seemed to stand still for Can Yaman. That evening, what was supposed to be a simple flight turned into a marathon of waiting. The announcement came unexpectedly, flight delayed due to technical reasons. At first, it was just a small inconvenience, a hiccup in an otherwise busy schedule. But as minutes stretched into hours, the weight of the delay began to settle in. Can sat down on a cold metal bench, surrounded by hurried travelers rushing to catch connecting flights, families reuniting with joyful embraces, and friends eagerly chatting as they waited. But none of that warmth reached him. Instead, he felt like an island amidst a sea of people. His phone buzzed with notifications, messages from fans, reminders of upcoming projects, endless social media updates. But none of it could fill the growing void inside. As the terminal lights flickered and the night deepened, the vibrant energy of the airport faded into a dull hum. Can's thoughts grew louder than the bustling crowd. Questions he had pushed aside during busy days now surfaced, echoing in his mind. Why was he here, waiting alone? What had brought him to this moment of silence amid chaos? And most importantly, what was he waiting for, not just at the airport, but in life? 7 hours stretched ahead, and with every passing minute, Can's loneliness became more palpable. But amidst the cold and the silence, something else began to emerge, a quiet strength, a chance for reflection that only solitude can bring. As the hours slipped by, the lively airport transformed into a place of shadows and quiet footsteps. The once bustling crowd thinned, leaving Can in a sea of empty chairs and dim lights. The distant announcements that once echoed like a soundtrack to life became faint whispers in the background. In those silent hours, the loneliness settled like a heavy blanket. It was no longer just the absence of company, it was a presence itself, tangible and overwhelming. Can looked around and saw faces illuminated by phone screens, people lost in their own worlds. Yet, for all the technology and connections, he felt utterly disconnected. This wasn't just a moment of waiting for a delayed flight. It was a moment of waiting for something more, perhaps clarity, perhaps peace, or maybe just a sign that he wasn't truly alone. His mind wandered to memories, both sweet and painful. Scenes from childhood, moments of laughter with loved ones, the bittersweet taste of past relationships. The kind of memories that surface when the world slows down and there's nothing left but silence. But alongside the memories came questions. Questions about who he was beneath the public image. Questions about dreams deferred and the cost of fame. For someone like Can, whose life was often under a microscope, this solitude was rare and unfamiliar. It forced him to face the parts of himself he usually kept hidden, the fears, the doubts, the longing. Yet, amid the weight of loneliness, a strange comfort began to grow. A reminder that being alone doesn't always mean being lonely. Sometimes, it means having space to breathe, to think, and to heal. As the night deepened and the airport's hum softened into a distant echo, Can Yaman found himself swallowed by his own thoughts. The waiting wasn't just physical, it was mental, emotional. Time slowed, allowing every feeling to surface with an almost unbearable clarity. He thought about his journey, the twists and turns that had brought him here. From a small-town boy with big dreams to an international star admired by millions, his path had been anything but easy. Behind every smile on camera, there were sacrifices made. Days missed with family, moments lost to endless scripts and demanding schedules. And nights like this, quiet, lonely, where no one saw the man behind the fame. Questions churned inside him. Had he given enough to those who mattered? Had he stayed true to himself or lost pieces along the way? Was the price of success worth the solitude it sometimes demanded? Memories of love flickered, relationships treasured, and those that slipped away. The warmth of a hand held, the sting of goodbyes. Love, in its many forms, had been both a balm and a challenge. And then there was hope, a fragile flame that refused to be extinguished. Hope that the waiting, the struggles, and the loneliness would lead to something meaningful. That every delay was a chance to grow stronger. In those silent hours, Can realized that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was a testament to being human. A reminder that beneath the spotlight was a man who felt deeply, who longed for connection, and who, despite everything, kept moving forward. 7 hours of waiting alone at the airport could have broken anyone's spirit. But for Can Yaman, that long, quiet night became a crucible, a place where resilience was forged. In the stillness, away from the cameras and the noise, he discovered the power of solitude. It was a time to listen to himself, to understand his limits, and to build patience. He reminded himself that fame and applause could not always fill the void that sometimes grew within. Real strength came from within, from accepting vulnerability and using it as a foundation to stand taller. Can reflected on the moments when he had overcome challenges before, early rejections, harsh criticism, the pressure of living up to expectations. Those memories were not just scars, they were proof of his endurance. Even in that cold airport, surrounded by strangers and uncertainty, he found a quiet courage rising inside. It was a promise to himself, to keep going, to embrace the waiting, and to trust that every delay had a purpose. That night taught him that loneliness could be a teacher, showing him how to be comfortable with himself and how to find peace amid chaos. And as dawn approached, bringing light to the horizon, Can felt a renewed sense of hope. The night was ending, but the lessons it brought would stay with him forever. For millions around the world, Can Yaman is a symbol of charm, talent, and success. But behind that dazzling exterior lies a reality that few get to see. Fame brings its own kind of loneliness. While the spotlight shines bright, it can also cast deep shadows, shadows of isolation, misunderstanding, and pressure. Can often found himself trapped between the person the world admired and the man he truly was. The expectations were high, the scrutiny relentless. Every move analyzed, every smile dissected. The airport night was a stark reminder that no matter how many fans cheered or how many headlines were written, the real Can could sometimes feel invisible. The glitz and glamour masked moments of doubt and exhaustion. The glamorous parties were sometimes replaced by quiet rooms and empty hours. And amidst it all, a constant longing for genuine connection. Yet, Can didn't resent the fame. Instead, he saw it as a platform, a responsibility to be authentic despite the challenges. That lonely night at the airport wasn't just about waiting for a flight. It was about waiting for himself. Waiting to reconcile the man the world saw with the man he felt inside. It was a moment of clarity, understanding that fame and reality don't always align, and that true peace comes from embracing both. That night at the airport was more than just hours spent waiting, it was a turning point for Can Yaman, a quiet moment that shifted something deep inside him. When the first light of dawn broke through the terminal windows, Can felt a renewed sense of clarity. The loneliness, the silence, the waiting, all of it had peeled back layers he hadn't realized were there. He understood that fame, success, and the applause of millions were only parts of his story. What truly mattered was finding balance, between the public and the private, the noise and the silence. From that night on, Can promised himself to cherish moments of solitude, to nurture his inner world, and to seek genuine connections beyond the spotlight. He became more mindful of the importance of self-care, of mental and emotional health. He learned that it's okay to be vulnerable, to admit when things are hard, and to ask for support. The airport night was a teacher, a silent mentor that guided him toward growth, resilience, and hope. And as he continued his journey, Can carried those lessons close to his heart, reminding himself that sometimes, the loneliest nights lead to the brightest mornings. Through every challenge, every lonely night, Can Yaman has never forgotten one thing, the support and love of his fans. That airport night was a moment of vulnerability he rarely shares publicly, but he wants his fans to know this: behind every smile, behind every success, there is a human being who feels deeply, who struggles, and who grows. He wants to remind everyone watching that it's okay to feel alone sometimes. It's okay to have moments of doubt and pain. Because these moments shape us and make us stronger. Can's message is simple yet powerful: no matter how dark the night, there is always hope. There is always light waiting on the other side. To his fans, he says thank you, for standing by him through highs and lows, for understanding that the journey is as important as the destination. And to anyone who has ever felt lost or alone, Can's story is a reminder, you are never truly alone. There is strength in patience, courage in vulnerability, and beauty in every step of the journey. So, as we close this chapter, remember the night Can Yaman stayed at the airport for 7 hours, not as a moment of defeat, but as a symbol of resilience, growth, and hope. Because sometimes, the most lonely nights give birth to the brightest stars.